About 12 years ago, my now husband proposed to me. I was excited. Now, I know it's normal to be excited to be proposed to, but I was next level excited. I could barely say yes. I was hyperventilating. I was barely breathing. I was completely freaking out. And when I look back at the time, I don't even think I was excited about having a wedding. I had this soul-soothing feeling, like there was someone, this awesome guy, who would have me. He wanted me to be the Mrs. to his Mr. And being engaged is really fun. There are mugs, there are keychains, there are totes that say Mrs. on them. It is a really fun time. But the thing that I was most excited about is once I was married and I could put a sign outside my classroom that said, Mrs. Spitzer. Wow. And then, even then, I knew that at the first faculty meeting of the year, the principal would likely announce that I had become engaged over the summer. And my colleagues would stand and applaud for me. They would applaud for me in my new engagement. And I couldn't wait for this to be the case. It would be a little while before I started to question this status change from Ms. to Mrs. And it happened in kind of an unusual way. I found myself in the unusual position to be in a meeting with the superintendent. And the reason I was in a meeting with the superintendent was because there was a parent who had crossed the line. So this parent, when I would go to CVS, he was there. When I would go to the bank, he was there. When I would look outside at my car in the parking lot, his car was right next to mine. And it really crossed the line when he brought a gift for my son's first birthday into the main office of my building. There's really no reason he should have known it was my son's first birthday. So I had to bring it to my principal's attention, and that brought me to a meeting with the superintendent. Sat across from the superintendent, a man who I respected greatly. I expected greatly. He was always so buttoned up and professional. He always wore a three-piece suit, and we had a conversation about what was going on. At the end of the conversation, the superintendent said something to me that would send me reeling for years to come. He said, Mrs. Spitzer, now the next thing for you to do is to go home and ask your husband what he would like to do about this situation. I was a little bit stunned, but I nodded and thanked him for his time and left the meeting with a lot on my mind about what that actually meant. Because his very traditional comment that I should go home and ask my husband was in the same sentence as what's now sounded like a very traditional title, Mrs. Spitzer. And I got to thinking, what does Mrs. actually mean? Mrs. means the extension of another. And historically, it actually means the property of another. So I became curious if using Mrs. was something that was exclusive to women in schools. So I called my friend, who's a lawyer, and I said to her, does anyone call you Mrs. Markowitz at work? She was quiet for a second, and then she laughed and she said, what is this, Mad Men? She made it clear to me that if someone called her Mrs. at work, it would be considered very dated and insulting. I then called another friend, a pediatrician, and I asked her the same question. And she said, I'm doctor in every room I walk into. And I thought, touche, touche. But she did agree that Mrs. was never used in her professional work environment for anyone, and that she also felt it would be dated and insulting. So it became clear to me that you would no sooner in the business world find someone smoking a cigarette at their desk or drinking scotch in the boardroom than you would find them calling someone Mrs. at work. And it also became clear to me that outside of education, women had long since decided that marital status was not relevant at work. So I got to thinking, doctor is always doctor. Mr. is always Mr. But women say, inadvertently, women say, before you even talk to me, before you get to know me, before we have a conversation about anything, I need you to know something. I'm married. And that's what we do. by putting Mrs. in front of our name. Why have we reveled in this tradition in education? And really, are we modeling professional behavior for our students when we do so? What we call ourselves matters. In 2019, we are hyper-focused on identity, and this is a good thing. But what we celebrate also matters. Remember that faculty meeting that I mentioned where everyone would applaud at my engagement? That actually happened. When I think of my friend who's a lawyer and what would be celebrated at a whole staff meeting, it would be the winning of a big case or the advancement of associate to partner. But when I got my master's degree, that was never even mentioned at work. It wasn't mentioned in a faculty meeting, and I don't even remember being congratulated for that accomplishment. If we as teachers want to advance ourselves as professionals, we need to start celebrating our professional achievements. It's no secret that the teaching profession does not receive the societal respect that it deserves. And that is in part directly related to the high level of education that is required to do the job and the low salary received to do that job. But small things will be a big difference. And if we treat ourselves as the highly educated CEOs of our classrooms that we are, maybe small changes will make a big difference in advancing our level of professionalism and therefore societal recognition for that professionalism. A title free of marital status is one step in that direction. We have a unique opportunity in our field because we are one of the last female-dominated professions. In our so-called pink-collar profession, we capitalize on the warmth and intelligence that women possess and bring to classrooms every single day. In fact, the U.S. Department of Education says that 77% of teachers are women. So shouldn't we be the most feminist profession and not the least? Women educators and leaders, we are no longer the secondary breadwinners or lesser earning extensions of our husbands the teachers were 50 or 100 years ago. We are highly educated professionals in our own rights, supporting our families every single day. If I could talk to that young, engaged girl, I would say to her, finding your perfect person is exciting. And you can change your name, and you can wear a ring, because those are personal decisions between you and your husband. But maybe consider the case against using Mrs. at work, because maybe it's not a badge of honor. Your marital status is no more relevant than your sexual orientation, your gender, your age, or any other personal information at work. What people call you matters. What you celebrate matters. And when you walk into classrooms every day, you're going to make a huge change in the life of your students. Show them what a professional, strong, independent woman who is a CEO of that classroom looks like. Her name is Ms. Spitzer. Thank you.